Where are you sitting? Overtraining or under recovery? Me as a coach, I don't think we can overtrain. I think we're under recovered. That's why we feel overtrained. Doesn't matter what it is. Overworked, we're under recovered, not overworked. Hello and welcome to the 1%ers Performance Podcast, coming to you from Combermary and Gadigal country in Australia. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge the First Nations people of these lands. This is the podcast exploring how small changes make a big impact. I'm Mario Buchs, and together with my co-host Tim Buxton, we'll discover the unseen edges of peak performance to help athletes, teams and leaders unlock their exponential growth. And now, it's time to dive in and find the 1% that changes everything.
Hello, welcome to one more episode of the 1%ers. Mari, how you doing, mate?
Tim, I'm very good. What about you?
Yeah, super good. We've got a topic that I think is one of your favorites today, a bit about recovery. I think a loose title, rest is not the reward, it's actually the work. So going into a bit about how, I think we've built a culture, right, around the celebration of being busy, being exhausted. But what if the secret to performance is actually recovery? And I know it's something you talk a lot about. I hear it a lot with you. But I think when we look at the constant grind that we and the hustle culture that we are involved in, I think there can be some pretty big or bad payoffs that can limit actually our ability to reach out what we talk about, our peak performance, right? So on that note, Mario, recovery, what makes it so important to you?
I think, I've been quite lucky in my little life that I've always noticed that maybe a lack of sleep, I'm absolutely hopeless in everything. I used to work with a lot of guys who got like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and they would thrive on it. Like you just said in the intro, chest out. I only sleep 4 hours, but needless to say, where are they now? Not only from a sporting perspective, but also from a work and a corporate world perspective. If you take the examples, I read a lot about CEOs and what they do. They take time out. The very successful people in this world, CEOs, they take time out, especially in the evening. They have dinner with their family. Yeah, they might take another call or another MS Teams meeting or something like that. But I think the time, everybody has to work hard for a living. That's definitely not something we're going to something we're not going to dispute this. But I watch my cats, right? I have 2 cats. People know we love our cats, Sue and I. And I just put a post out. I took a picture of these 2. Cats sleep a bit more than they should, probably, or more than us. They
the life of a cat or a dog,
Absolutely. So the thing is, right, napping is 100% a 1%er, this is the key. And I love this. I just came up with it this week when I was trying to, think about what we're going to talk about today. But look, you hit the nail on the head already in the intro. It's this chest out approach. The harder you are, and the less people talk about under recovery, overtraining. I'm an under recovery guy. I've talked to a few people on my podcast as well who know this stuff, and I says, okay, where are you sitting? Overtraining or under recovery? Me as a coach, I don't think we can overtrain. I think we're under recovered. That's why we feel overtrained. Doesn't matter what it is. Overworked, we're under recovered, not overworked. This is the thing.
It's an interesting thing because I think it's the same principle that applies. And I remember you pulled me up a lot preparing for the Iraq 100. When it is a slow day or when it's a rest day, are you actually, again, our mindset often is I've got to, the ego kicks in. And I think a lot of it does come back to, again, this pressure or this culture that gets reinforced by our ego. It gets reinforced by, just wanting to to achieve and thinking the way to achieve is to just do more. And like is such a well-known saying, often less is more. So I think, you reminded me as you say that, and you were saying before this call, you've got one of your athletes that's just completed one of the most grueling 100-milers here in Australia. We did an episode about the Elephant Trail race that you participated in. So if you want to hear more about what it actually takes to do that, it's definitely a great episode to tune back into. But this athlete of yours, is already texting you, when can I start running again? And you like had a bit of a chuckle. So yeah, talk a bit more about that, and how do you kind of bring home the importance of that principle of
peer pressure,
of recovering?
Right, is the issue. I don't think it's an ego thing sometimes. It's like, oh, everyone else is doing it, so I should do it. Again, we can put that into business. If everyone is doing that, perhaps we do this to be successful. Because if everybody, there's certain things you have to do, having a business that, you have to control your finances and build something. You have to have something that sells. Absolutely. But doing everything the same like everyone else, you will have 50 million same things going on, right? Other than, okay, I have an idea, I plonk it over here. So I live by that method as well when it comes to running and endurance sport in general, because I've also got cyclists under my wing now, obviously triathletes, higher rocks and all this. Just going back to, or just talking about triathlon, very good triathletes will always say recovery is the fourth discipline. Yes, triathlon has 3 disciplines, but the recovery part or the rest part is this. I think, but just going back to my peer pressure analogy there, if I come off a big race and I watch what all the others did in that big race and they're already running again the Tuesday after, right? Yeah, whatever. I don't care. I actually physically, for me, I don't care. I look at this. I can still be on Strava and have a look what people are doing. It does not affect me at all because I know how important it is. And look, I'm in my mid-50s now, so it becomes even more important, right? And then we have runners that are 60, 65. I coach a 73-year-old. There, we just listen to the body. The body will tell us what's right and what's wrong.
Listen to the body, and everybody is different, right? Everyone's unique. Different stage of life, different age. I've heard of some, well-known ultra runners that no matter what, they just run 5 or 10 Ks a day or 5 Ks a day. And they'll always do that. And even after they run a massive, huge race. And so often we can get inspired by that and think, well, I should be doing that too. And it's like, well, really like you said, just because they do it, and again, not to say that they're right or wrong, but I think that kind of pressure then we place on ourselves that somehow that's, that makes us legitimate or gives us credibility. It's like, no, everybody's different, and learning to rest in that. I'd rest in that from an identity perspective is also the same principle of learning just to rest. Because my question for you now is why does it feel, and I felt this recently, why do I feel a sense of failure, or why do I feel a sense of this frustration? It's common amongst, I think, driven people that want to achieve a lot, when I'm forced to take a break and forced to rest. I had that recently. I was playing football, the old boys, Aussie rules, trying to run around and like show my kids that I can still play, and like right at the end of the game, last minute, my knee just goes, nah, it's not working, pops. And I hear this pop, and, it took me like literally two weeks to go even get an x-ray to look at, because it was just like not working. And fortunately, there's no ligament problems, but it looks like it's a meniscus issue with the cartilage there. And so we're just being careful on that. But just being like not running this whole time, I've just went on my first 5K, just jogged just to test it out. And it's it's come back all right. But those two, however many weeks it was, where I'm just forced to not do anything, I missed the mates I was catching up with and running with as well. It was really, 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 really hard. What do you say to people that might be listening that are like that or can relate to that?
It's a great question. 2 answers I say to this. I think if we have to remove ourselves from that, right? It's like having, thinking that working as an employee 7 days a week, you're going to impress someone because you're on the holler on Saturday, Sunday, answering emails and all this kind of stuff, getting up at 5 and working 14 hours a day. Probably if you never remove, I'm not saying it's bad or good. We don't judge on this podcast, right? We just put out the facts, what's going on, and then people can make their own assumptions if it's for them or not. If we don't remove ourselves from something, how are we going to improve? If we're always in it, we're never over it. It's like working in a business rather than on a business. We're not going to grow. And the same goes for our health and wellness. We have to work on our wellness. And that incorporates a lot of things, That would be, that part. The other part, if you're in a running group or in a cycling group, you know exactly when they go for a run or a ride. And then they're going to have a coffee. Just go and have a coffee. Show your medal or whatever you've just achieved because you're now resting, you recover. You don't have to remove yourself from the group. You just remove yourself from that training run, training ride, training swim, pickleball session, whatever it is, cricket. You can still go to the AFL and see the boys and see them afterwards for a beer. You're not removing yourself. I suggested that to the runner that we've just been talking about. I says, hey, Saturday morning, they run around where you live. Just go and see them for coffee. Maybe bring your girlfriend along, introduce her, something like that, whatever, have a coffee with them. And because whatever we do, we've achieved something and we need to have a rest. But that's just after a race. Now, life is not always about a race at an event. Sometimes it's also good just to have a break. In this running block, I've had one break, complete rest, 10 days. After 5 days, I was running again, but like just easy peasy. But 5 in the middle of the block. No force, no injury, no niggles, no nothing. On the other hand, I'm coaching an athlete who has her first injury ever. And she's been running for a very long time. It's a mental thing, right? It's tough, and you just look, I'm not talking for someone else, but you mentioned it, people are under pressure and think, wow, I'm a failure, I'm not running. And we are not runners. We're humans who run, or we are humans who go to work. We're humans who cycle or do something, or we go to the gym or whatever. But that doesn't make us. That's just part of us, and it's what we do. It's not who we are. Even ultra endurance runners who win things, the top guys, they say, I don't want to be remembered as a runner. I want to be remembered as Jim Blocks or whatever. And I was a great human being. And I love to run and I won a few things. That's how people want to be remembered. That's their legacy,
How do you apply this? Let's want to take a step back because that's a really, really good point about our identity. And I think what we're talking about in the context of running or being a cyclist or a triathlete still applies to work, right? It applies to, and you said that at the beginning, you listed a couple of really important things already. 1%, obviously a good night's sleep, but then napping as like, hey, that's a really cool, that's something I know that you practice even in your daily practice within your busy work schedule. It makes you more, I think, on point in meetings. I think it gives us more productivity in work. Obviously, then there's you could probably think of a whole few other key things within recovery around diet, nutrition, all the things that are we both have used Currans, which is a powerful supplement, natural supplement that's been proven to be incredibly effective in recovery, and we've talked a lot about that. But can you expound on the additional kind of broader impacts of recovery? Maybe there might be a few other key points you want to make that we could implement in our strategy of recovery.
So first, I always remove myself from what I'm doing. So even if, you just mentioned work, we need to have a break. What that break looks like, how big that break is, should we sit down if we're on a standing desk, should we stand up if we're sitting all day, what's 45 minutes, 10,000 steps, they're just numbers. Nobody's ever proven it. This is not scientifically proven. That 10,000 steps is a number someone came up with it in Japan and we all live by it. Because the funny thing is human beings need a number to feel good. You go to the doctor and you weigh yourself and the doctor says, you're okay. You're only 15 kilos overweight, but you're still okay. You're still normal. Hold on. And then people walk away and say, yeah, this is great. I'm in the normal. But normal these days, compared to 60 years ago, I don't want to be normal. When the doctor says you're normal, I'm like, that's the last thing on earth. People know that I'm not normal anyway as soon as I open my mouth. But also from a from a health perspective, the last thing I want to be is normal. I want to be totally not normal. I want to be low on what has to be low, and the number is up. But these are the things with these little things that we give people. It's like, it's like comfort zone immediately. I've just done 10,000 steps. I can now do whatever. The 10,000 steps is only 5% of what we should be doing. I was talking to a guy at the gym yesterday. He was talking about his weight loss. He's done really good. He's done 50 kilos with just looking after himself, going to the gym and stuff. Weight loss happens in the kitchen, right? You can run as much as you want. You can lift as much as you want if your nutrition isn't great. Listening to your body is part number 2. So we remove ourselves, then we start listening to our body. What does my body want? You just mentioned currents. There's days where I take 2 currents in the morning and 2 currents in the afternoon. Specific, not every day, of course. It's also an affordability thing. I would love to, but it's like, okay, today I think, I need to get that extra bit of rest, that extra bit of blood flow. As we have blood flow in the body, we can regenerate, good cells and heal whatever we need to do, But then there's the mental stresses as well, Is everything okay at work? Is everything okay with the family? Everything else, We have a lot of problems at the moment, issues, There's just been a few changes from a government perspective here in Australia.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other stuff going on elsewhere as well. I mean, this is a global podcast, but we both live in Australia, so we can obviously comment on what's going on here. So look, I know there's more than one tip in there, and there's no magic pill, but definitely listen to the body. And that goes from when I come from work, if I've had a bad day, and you just mentioned it, having a break in the middle of the day. My grandfathers napped 100% every single day. I come from a country where you worked in your village. Years ago, people walked to work or cycled to work. And a lot of the European countries still do that. They go home for lunch. Lunch is their main meal, not evening, lunch. So, this is how it was. Someone at home was cooking. The guys got home. They ate. They lied down on the couch, not in the bed, but on the couch. They had 10 minutes and off they went, productive. You witnessed it firsthand, how the battery charges. 3 minutes, 4 minutes of sleep maximum, probably. I had 10 minutes rest. I was in the car with you. You managed that situation. It's from 20 to 60%. And you were right. We wouldn't have finished that strong if I would have had that nap.
That was an amazing feat, to go all that way, 30 odd hours, and then finally just take a 10 minute nap, like break, nap, lie down. Like you said, 5 hours of actual probably shut eye. That was meaningful, but what that did to you was phenomenal. But you've brought some really good points earlier, and I want to kind of revisit them. And we've only got a couple minutes left. But you mentioned taking a break from that space, and just before we jumped on this podcast, I had some other work. I did an exam actually. I had to do an assessment, and I went and took a dog for a walk. I didn't bring my phone with me, and ended up having a conversation with one of my neighbors. Complete break, complete separate context in nature, outside with my dog. Come back, I'm clear. I'm ready. I'm energized. I'm not rushing, bouncing back one thing to the next. And you probably sensed that on this call. Like sometimes I've joined and I've been busy doing one thing as I'm running late, and I jump on and it takes me a while. I didn't have that today, and I think it's this idea of wanting to get quality rather than quantity. And if we, some of the best writers and the best creative people in the world that have, I think it was Ernest Hemingway or one of those, prolific writers and wonderful authors, they would only have like 2 or 3 hours of productive writing or work a day. And not to say we all can just go on holiday and do nothing, but as we said at the beginning, rest actually can be the work. It's learning to see strategical times and making an effort to do that. And I think it does wonders, as you brought up, for our stress levels. we can spend so much time thinking and ruminating things, and all it does require is a bit of a break, a bit of time to just look at it from a different angle, get into a different situation. Again, think that that's something that really stood out as you were talking there, and the power of taking rest, the power of prioritizing recovery as an important part of the work.
I used to work for a company. Every morning at 10, there's a coffee shop like 2 minutes down the road. I'd walk there, have a coffee, and, walk back. So 15 minutes tops, right? And I was always asked the question, hey, why are you going out? And I'm like, because it's good. I need boop. And then I'm back into it. And my boss at the teachers didn't get it. Do you know what the solution was? They got a coffee machine. Think about that leadership skill, right? 0. And I looked at him, I says, what do you want me to do now? And now you can have the coffee here. I says, it wasn't after several times of trying to tell this person,
yeah,
I don't go out because of the coffee. Yes, it's a good coffee, and I can combine the coffee with a sit down and a look out the window and whatever, and just think about nothing, come back and fully energized, because I used to get a lot of phone calls, a lot of technical discussions. So the brain was kind of constantly on, and I needed that, right? And just mid-morning, and it didn't sink in. It's like, oh, we've now got a coffee machine. You don't need to. I said, I need to walk anyway, and I need to go out and get fresh air. It's like, we're not slaves. And it's like these things, they're little things. And we are, we're able to do these things these days. So, we're not clocking in, clocking out, that kind of stuff in this world anymore. I mean, I used to work like that, clock in, clock out. A lot of people listening will still remember these times. But then I also worked for companies where you automatically got 12 minutes deducted every day anyway for a break. So you knew you had that time to step out, I know people who just go and sit in the car at lunchtime, just switch off, put the seat back for 5-6 minutes and then get back. So, I mean, it's not just about rest. It's also about what we eat. Everybody knows what happens if you don't have that coffee in the afternoon, or you don't have that chocolate bar, or you don't have that, But there's ways around that. I'm not here to tell people what they can and can't do, but there's definitely things around that to not have that.
Listen to your body.
Huh? Yeah.
Listen to your body. It's okay to have a celebratory beer after a race, but do you want to probably make sure that, during that critical time of recovery, you're not spending the next few weeks getting into bad habits again, let's just say, or else you're not going to feel great. You're not going to be at your best, right?
You won't recover. Yeah.
You won't recover.
Having a coffee at 3 p.m, it might give you another kick for 2 hours, but unfortunately it stays in the system for about, 8 or whatever. I don't know the maths. So then the sleep will then suffer. This is a bit of a vicious circle, So again, we're not here to tell people what to do, but there's always
can take
options,
something different from this. And again, I think to say we're prescribing this is exactly what you have to do. I think though that, as we'll always do, like these are key principles, right? And how they're applied, you need to apply it to your unique situation. And you as you famously say, you're a human being first, not a runner first. You're a human being first, not a employer or even a dad or a husband. You are a human first, and your unique approach to anybody that you coach, and our encouragement to anyone listening is you've got to be able to reflect at what works for you and what your unique situation is.
Very true.
You've dropped some gold nuggets on us again,
thank you, Tim.
Mario. But we've got a lot more we'd love to share. We'll keep it short and sweet for you this week. And remember, 1%ers are often the thing that create the exponential growth in our lives and unlock things that that we couldn't imagine. So hopefully we've dropped a few 1%ers for you today.
Just one last thing: sleep happens in the evening, not in the morning. Who can sleep in, mate? Yeah, we have to go to bed early.
Yes.
Don't watch something in the evening that you wouldn't get up for at 4 a.m. the next day. So That's how important it has to be. The Football World Cup is now over. There can't be anything important. We did have a few early mornings, yeah. Thanks a lot. Vibing out.
Vibing out. See you next week.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to the One Percenters podcast. That's a wrap for another episode. And we're proud to be recording from Australia on Kombumerri and Gadigal country. And we honour the traditions and knowledge of the First Nations people and pay our respects to elders, past and present. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We want to hear from you, the questions or topics you would like us to cover, and you can easily do that in the Spotify app. And for those of you that are ready to discover your peak performance edge today, just head on over to our website. That is top.coach. That's TOPP.coach. And start unlocking your unlimited potential with us today. We would love to work with you. And that's it for now. Until next time, what are you waiting for?